All right, everybody, we'd like to welcome you back to our debates in a brand new locale. After hearing some of Nate's thoughts on abortion, I decided, I might have some, rebuttals and stuff that throw out there, just food for thought. So we're back, and Chip's going to moderate this one for us.
Hey.
And,
Yeah. Nate, your first recap on all of your thoughts on abortion beliefs. You start now.
Okay. In my view, I see abortion as right because the fetus has no intrinsic right to the mother's body without her consent. I see the idea of forcing someone to carry a child they do not want would be like forcing someone to have somebody inside their body for 9 months. This is a 9-month-long rape. And that, I think, sums up my views. And that's why I think abortion should remain legal, and the efforts to curb it by limiting access to abortions, particularly to impoverished families, are wrong.
Oh, sweet. Derek, you start now.
Okay, so my views on abortion, I'm not really vehemently one side or the other. I understand there's certain circumstances in which I believe abortion is necessary, but at the same time, I really feel everyone should have a chance at life, no matter what stage you're at. So Nate's comparison of going through those 9 months carrying a child as rape to somebody who is looking to have an abortion. Well, I mean, we don't kill somebody who rapes someone. We put them in prison, whatever else. Now, unless we're going to start sticking babies in juvie, that's not really a viable option. But what is a viable option is, let's see, maybe you could, adopt. I mean, you don't, just because you have the child doesn't mean you have to, keep it and care for it, which is kind of the issue for a lot of those lower income families. There's plenty of people who can't have children of their own, maybe because they're too old, they have, some kind of, dysfunction sexually. There's plenty of people, those couples who are, homosexual, plenty of reasons why people can't have children, but they really would love to. And if we open up and have more children for adoption instead of aborting them, now we're giving, more opportunities, life, and more opportunities for others to raise a child, which, I'm told, although I have no experience with it, is a wonderful experience. That being said, if you do kind of subscribe to the notion of rape, carrying a child is rape, as I mentioned, we don't kill somebody to rape someone. And I've got an interesting little paradox for both sides that I'll explain on my next turn.
Cool. All right, 2 minutes for Nate. We're off to 4 minutes. There we go. For your rebuttal. Now.
If we do not kill rapists, I think we should.
Okay.
When rape is horrible, let's say, there's never justification for it, and it's absolutely wrong. And I'll admit that there are differences between someone being forced to have sex with somebody and abortion. Number one is the idea of consciousness. With actual rape cases where the death penalty should be used, not very big on the death penalty, but I can definitely understand using it for rapists. That being said, when someone conscious, especially an adult, conscious, knowing, goes after somebody and violently forces them to have sex against their will, that's a gross violation of that person's rights, the right to their body.
Okay. Sorry.
Okay. It's a gross violation to the rights of their body. Now, being conscious, that person is now applicable for a punishment. And as I've said, death would be a wonderful punishment for people who do that. The difference with the fetus is it's not conscious, it's not conscious at all, really. I haven't seen proof of a conscious fetus, and it's definitely not there of its own volition. That doesn't, however, justify its stay inside the womb. For the use of anyone's body, you need their permission. you need their consent to use someone else's body, and without that consent, there is no right to stay. So if a woman becomes pregnant and at any time does not wish for that fetus to be inside of her, she has no reason to make it stay. If it's in her body without her consent, without her will, she can expel it. And this does result in the death of the fetus. And that's
Good. Now, is there a 4-minute chance for rebuttal? Or now?
Number of things to address about what you said. Now, I do want to address real quick. You know, as I said, I'm not really vehemently on one side or the other, frankly, because I think both sides really fail to realize the inherent paradox of the abortion debate, and that is, you know, let's say I'm a liberal. If I acknowledge the fact that killing is wrong, but you know, now I've also acknowledged the fact that, you know, a fetus is alive, you know, because, you know, even some people go so far as to say it's a parasite. You know, if a fetus is a parasite, well, it's still alive. You're still killing it, and it is a human being in a different stage of development. You know, it's not maybe fully matured, you know, it's not fully an adult, but, you know, we don't treat kids any differently in their basic rights than we do adults. So if we establish that this fetus is, you know, a living thing, you know, be a living human, and we also think death is inherently, you know, killing somebody, you know, death penalty, for instance, is inherently wrong, then technically states, you know, such as, I believe, New York, or, you know, states that actually allow abortions, but not the death penalty, what they're doing is a bit of a paradox. On the flip side of it, if I'm a conservative and I think, you know, abortion is very wrong, but I approve, you know, if I approve of the death penalty, especially in cases of self-defense, then, you know, in the case where, you know, let's say a woman is going to die if she doesn't get an abortion, and something, you know, I feel should be perfectly legal, that she can get an abortion if she is going to die, if she continues to carry the child, then she actually is legal to have an abortion in Texas, because even though they may not have legal abortion, they do have legal self-defense in cases where life is at stake. So, you know, like I said, things aren't quite as cut and dry as they always seem. Now, Nate, I want to address your statement about the consciousness of the fetus. Now, I don't have statistics right here in hand on me, but I do know for a fact that you can go and look at studies done by psychologists, especially Kohlberg, I want to say, you know, a few of the neo-Freudians. You can go and look at their studies of early childhood development, and while there is, you know, depending on your definition of consciousness, children do know, even in the form of a fetus, they can respond to the voice of their mother and their father. They know it from a very young age, and, you know, it's not something that I would say develops in the space of a month, but even as a baby, studies have been shown that they can identify that, you know, hey, this is my mother, not, you know, somebody else, by the sound of the voice. You know, the parents are reading to them and talking to them while they're in the womb. So as far as a fetus being conscious, I think that there actually is some evidence that it is. So last thing I want to address about your points made, you know, again, understanding that, you know, if you want to twist the terms around in the correct way, yes, you could make the argument that a fetus inhabiting his mother's body is, in a way, rape. Yes, sure, because it's in the body and the woman doesn't want it. That being said, you know, is it right necessarily to just go and, you know, deprive it of the chance to life? Understanding that, you know, if you're going to, you know, go ahead and have sex, then you have to know the risks involved. If there is that chance, you know that there is a chance you can have a child, you know, even if you are using contraceptives, you know, if you know that that chance is there, is it right to, you know, even though you were aware of the risk, to just kind of ignore the risks and push your own responsibility away? You know, why not take responsibility, carry the child through the birth, and have an adoption? You know, give it up for adoption. You don't have to take care of the child, which I believe is the main issue in many cases of abortion. It's not that, oh, I don't want to carry a child through 9 months of pregnancy and then have a baby. It's more that I don't want to care for the child.
All right, cool. Yeah, I think it's time we get to rebuttal and
One
then
more
closing
set for each.
statements. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. So It's Nate's turn to rebut. You got 4 minutes starting now.
A good point you made. It was about consciousness and the consciousness of the fetus, and I'd like to see those studies. And if we find them in time, we'll post a nice link right here. But that
There.
and here. But consciousness in this sense is used as a determinant for punishment. It's not a determinant of whether it's right or wrong to expel the child. The right or wrongness of an abortion, from my argument, comes from the fact that the child is infringing on the rights of the mother, and all the child's rights to life, liberty, etc., come from a violation of the mother's rights. Now, in the case of a rapist, he's conscious, and he's violating the woman's right willfully and knowingly, and that consciousness brings about the application for punishment. Abortion is not a punishment for the fetus. The fetus's death is not the goal of abortion. It's the result of it. The goal of the abortion is to remove the child from the mother's body. Now, you also mentioned that adoption is a great way for couples or women who do not want a child, and you're right, that is a great way. But I'm not talking about people who don't want to raise a child. A lot of women do not want to go through the effects of carrying it. One of your points you brought up was also about the, I wish I had a notepad, I wanted to write this down.
Be nice.
Yeah, we'll have to do that next time. But you brought up an idea of,
The paradox?
no, it wasn't the paradox. I'm aware of the paradox, but I hold none of those. I hold none of those ideas. I'm not saying it's not alive. I'm not saying it's not human. And I'm not saying it's a parasite. It's more like what I've jokingly called reverse inside-out kidnapping. It's kind of strange. See, when you kidnap somebody, you take them, and you take them and their body, and that's a violation because you're taking them places they don't want to go. You're taking them against their will. Now, when it comes to things like, when it comes to abortion or unwanted pregnancy, the fetus, unconsciously, but it's still doing it. And the fact that it's still doing it is the problem. It violates the mother by taking her body hostage. So it's a reverse kidnapping. It's not, it's giving the mother complete control of it. And it's taking over her body. And pregnancies are not quite so fun from what I've heard from some of the women I've talked to. The hormones, throwing up in the morning, it's like one woman said it was like a hangover every day. And that's no fun. But another thing I wanted to mention is a little metaphor we brought up earlier about it. If it's more about the consciousness of the situation, why abortion is right. If someone is forced to rape a woman, just imagine a man breaks into a house and he puts a gun to another man's head and says, rape this woman. And the man, for fear of his own life, rapes the woman. If the woman then kills the man who's raping her, she has that right. She's defending herself. It becomes irrelevant that the man is raping her for his own life.
10 seconds.
Good. I'm glad I got all that in. I think I'll save my other points for closing.
Oh, cool. Now, 4 minutes for Derek, starting now.
Okay. So you kind of clarified a little more on statements about the consciousness of the fetus. Now, I wish to address, now, I don't know about you, or anybody really other than myself, but I don't think I was inherently born with a knowledge of what is right, what is wrong, you know. I don't think I knew all these things.
That's a different debate.
And
No, that's a different debate.
No, hang on.
No.
I don't believe I was born with the conscience that, you know, this is right, this is wrong, and da-da-da-da-da. So if we are going to say that, you know, a fetus is knowingly taking and hijacking or kidnapping, as you say, the woman's body, you know, I don't know that we can make that kind of a statement. So, continuing on from there, you know, you mentioned this case of, somebody, forcibly, I am, going to, let's say, somebody breaks into someone's house, this scenario you mentioned at the end of your argument. The thing with that one, and I've heard, certain, supposals and that sort of thing before in that same vein of, thinking. Now, what that really comes down to is a personal thing. It's not, black, quite as black and white. It's more of a gray area. I mean, yeah, the woman could kill the man who's raping her. Or the man who is raping her could instead try to fight back, or, not, because he knows it's wrong.
Well,
it really depends on your situation. That's a little specific, I think. But, I see you've used it for, trying to explain your case. Now, also, you mentioned just towards the beginning of your argument, we need notepads.
Yeah, we do.
Notepads. This is one of
The concept of the child. We're just going to get away from that one in the rebuttal.
Cool.
So
notepads.
Notepads.
So, going off of the the labor of carrying a child, understanding that I have no experience with it, that I can't say for certain what it's like, but as you said, I've heard it's quite tough. But,
Can be.
But if you are aware, and I believe you would learn about some of these things from your mother. Girls, I don't know. So you might have to help me out here. But,
How about here?
but, if you are aware, and you know about all of these, risks associated with pregnancy, all of this trauma, why then would you go and knowing this is a possibility that could happen, I could have to go through all of this, why would you then go and put yourself in that? Is it for your own carnal desires? I would think so. And even if you use contraceptives, you're not always safe. But, just because I have this, carnal desire, doesn't mean you should go and, seek it out if you know the risks. So I think you need to take a little bit of a responsibility for your actions. If I'm going to go out and do something I love, I need to be aware of the possible side effects. And if they come, I gotta live with them, if I'm going to go out and go do some kind of dangerous stunt, right? Like, let's say I'm going to go pull an Evel Knievel and try to drop 20 buses. I need to be aware of the possible side effects. And if I get hurt, I need to live with it. I made a choice, an inherent choice to do this thing, right? So when you go to have sex, you make a choice to do this carnal desire. And you need to take responsibility for your actions and be aware of the possible consequences.
Cool. All right, now let's start rebuttals.
We let the time get too low. That's what I get for being long-winded.
All right.
I'll try not to let that happen, no guarantee.
I'll give Nate 4 minutes for his closing statement. That starts right now.
Okay, the first thing I've noticed that you said was that my consciousness was that the fetus was consciously doing this, and I got this cartoon image in my head of a fetus like, I'm gonna go, Rick. She's not getting out of college. But no, that's not what's happening.
That's quite a dark humor, but yeah, go ahead.
That's not what's happening. That's not what I'm promoting. It. The fetus is completely unconsciously, unwillfully diverting this woman's life. It's not doing that because it wants to. It's doing that because a contraception failure, or maybe no contraception was used at all. Whatever. It did that because it exists. So that I wanted to clear that up. I'm not
Okay.
I'm not for evil fetuses.
As you were saying.
Another thing I wanted to bring up. Notepads. Notepads would be very nice at this point. You talked about responsibility. If you're going to go if you're going to do like a motorcycle jump over some tall buildings or something, you should be aware that you could die or get seriously injured. That's great. That's true. But the sex and abortion thing is a little different. If you have sex, you should know that you could catch a venereal disease, and I say, if you catch a venereal disease having sex, that's something you knew and could have prevented, right? Pregnancy is similar. But I would say it's a little different than the bike metaphor. Because when you have sex with someone, you consent to that sex. You do not necessarily consent to a pregnancy, especially when contraception is used. When contraception is used, it's very clear that pregnancy is something a woman does not consent for. If a woman's on, especially contraception that does not block STDs, but blocks the possibility of pregnancy. Yes, contraception is not 100% working, but it's just not. The only one that is abstinence, and that is the hardest contraception to use. So,
No, I'm sorry, keep going, I'm sorry. That's my bad, that's my bad.
I heard contraception, abstinence is contraception as much as, I can't remember the phrasing, I'll write it down later, but it's, how much time do you have left?
You have 1 minute, 3 seconds.
God.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can stop if you want.
No, I don't have enough time. Another thing is, one of the metaphors I was using to get this argument across to someone else was, if you allow your neighbor into your house for one night, you do not allow his son to live there for 9 months. The house, of course, being the woman in this.
Okay.
You do not agree to feed him, and of course, being pregnant, a lot of your food, your system is derived to helping the development of fetus, which is amazing in the sense of how much it takes for that to happen. Now, you also mentioned that abortion is a gray area, and I'm not promoting abortions for everyone. I think it's definitely a woman's choice. I think no one should make the call besides the woman and their doctor, and sometimes it's the right thing to do, and sometimes it's not, but I would never tell someone to get an abortion when they don't want to. I'd never tell someone not to get an abortion when they want to. It's 100% their choice, and it's something I'll never experience, and it's something none of us will experience. And a woman talked to me once. She said she was against abortion. She said,
10 seconds.
She said, it's something that I will experience. Let me get this point across. I'm going to finish. Okay. She says, well, I'm not, I will experience pregnancy in the future. It's something that I'm against. How come we can't just take a vote of a majority of women and figure out what's right or wrong? And the thing is, it doesn't matter what the majority of women thinks. It matters what each individual woman thinks. It's all about how each individual thinks. Just like I will never experience it, neither will every woman. Every experience is different, and they should be accounted for.
Okay, cool. That will give 4 minutes to Derek.
Okay.
For your points. Here we go.
All right. So, I saw you readdressed, the consciousness of the fetus, and yes, you pointed out it's unwillingly in that situation. Now, I think we need to have a little bit of understanding on both sides of this, right? The fetus has no say in the matter of whether or not, he is going to be formed and whatnot, but we can't just, take away all of his rights because of that. He is in a, pretty crappy situation as well, if you look at him getting an abortion. Yeah, he is completely reliant on the mother, as you pointed out, I believe. So, it's crappy on both sides. It's a hard thing. But, I don't think that means that you need to go and have an abortion. And frankly, as you pointed out, yeah, to each their own, wonderful if everybody can have their own choice in it. But I really don't know that every circumstance needs to be the case. I mean, I think you pointed out in one of your earlier rebuttals, abortions, being for the sake of not wanting to carry the child. Well, frankly, yeah, it's tough to carry a child, but, and this is something I think we need to find some statistics on and post them with the study about childhood development.
If we find them, they'll be right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, I don't know that there's nearly as many abortions for the sake of, I don't want to go through pregnancy as I don't want to have a child. I don't want to have the responsibility of a child. A lot of abortions from what I see are cases where, that somebody very young, usually I would say under the age of 24, 25, somebody, maybe a single mother, maybe the father abandoned her, doesn't want to carry, doesn't want to have that responsibility for a child. Because let's face it, raising a child is a hard and tough responsibility. So, I think that more of the cases are, they just want to get out of that responsibility. And I think, you should take responsibility for your actions. You don't have to raise the child, but I do think you should at least give the child a chance at life. I mean, let's also think about it. I don't know the statistics for how many abortions have occurred in the U.S. over the past 100 years. But if we look at it, that's a lot of young minds, talent, ideas, innovation that has gone to waste. It hasn't even had a chance to come to fruition. And frankly, if everybody has a chance at life, and everybody can have this chance to create, and the human mind is a wonderful thing. If everybody has that chance at life and has a chance to do something important with their life, do something special, unique, something that could change us all, I say more power to it. Let them have a chance at life. That's all I'm saying. If you don't want to carry through pregnancy, wonderful. But if you want to get rid of the baby because, oh, I can't afford it, I don't want it, stop. Go through pregnancy, have it born, and give it up for adoption. All right? That's my views.
All right. Well,